Welcome to Talking New York Real Estate with Vince Rocco. Our show is all about the exciting world of real estate and in particular, how it relates to the luxury New York marketplace. But if you are not planning a real estate transaction in New York, we still have plenty of information you can use no matter where you are. Now, here's our show. Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome my listeners and viewers in the United States and all around the world. I am Vince Rocco, and it is Tuesday morning here in New York City, so let's go behind the headlines and get the real story. But first, this is Talking New York Real Estate, the state of our industry. And up front today, OneButton is a cutting-edge interior design firm known for its innovative approach to blending technology with timeless aesthetics. Specializing in creating smart, stylish, and functional spaces, the firm focuses on integrating user-friendly automation solutions to enhance daily living without sacrificing design appeal. From sophisticated lighting systems to intuitive home automation setups, OneButton tailors each project to reflect the client's unique style while adding seamless technology convenience. Their holistic design process ensures that every element from furniture selection to tech integration works in harmony, crafting environments that are so beautiful as they are efficient. They frequently use Lutron's Caseta and Homework systems for smart lighting control, allowing users to create custom lighting scenes. For audio-visual solutions, they incorporate Sonos wireless speakers, for example, providing a streamlined, high-quality sound experience. OneButton also integrates Creston and Control 4 systems, which serve as central hubs for home automation, giving users control over everything from climate to security. Additionally, their projects may include Nest thermostats and Ring cameras. We're all familiar with those, offering efficient, secure, and sustainable living solutions. Each product is selected not only for its performance, but also for its ability to blend into the overall aesthetic, ensuring technology complements the design rather than disturbing it. I have one of the co-founders here with me on set, and we will discuss and we will have all that and so much more as Talking New York Real Estate gets underway on this very busy Tuesday morning. In the news this morning, the Greenwich Village Society of Historic Preservation reminds us that 200 years ago this week, Fifth Avenue was born with the opening in Greenwich Village of the first segment of New York City's most iconic thoroughfare. While it took decades for the avenue to be built out, with initial development not truly gaining momentum until the 1840s and 50s, Fifth Avenue went on to become and still is known as a prime street in Greenwich Village, but in many ways, it is the central artery of all of New York City, especially here in Manhattan. And speaking of Fifth Avenue, the tallest residential tower on Fifth was officially topped out. Developed by Rabina and designed by Kahn Pedersen Fox, the 88-story mixed-use tower at 520 Fifth Avenue has topped out at 1,002 feet, making it the second tallest structure on the iconic corridor after the Empire State Building. Slated for completion in 2025, the elegant skyscraper will feature boutique office floors on the lower levels, with luxury condos beginning on the 42nd floor. And this year's Rockefeller Center Christmas tree has been unveiled. The 74-foot-tall Norway spruce hails from West Stockbridge in Massachusetts, the first tree sourced from that state since 1959, and it will be cut down on Thursday this week, November 7th, and make its journey to Manhattan. The spruce arrives at Rock Center on Saturday, November 9th, following the tree's decoration with thousands and thousands of twinkling lights and its iconic star. The annual tree lighting ceremony will take place this year on Wednesday, December 4th. And a decade after then Vice President Joe Biden compared a New York City airport to a third world country, and after an $8 billion makeover, LaGuardia Airport is now considered one of the best airports in the United States, if not the best. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey last Thursday announced that LaGuardia was selected as the best airport in the country by Forbes Travel Guide. Okay, the accolade is the latest in a series of achievements earned by the airport after its transformation began way back in 2016 and is now largely complete. And surprise, surprise, jaywalking, a habit of many New Yorkers, is now officially legal in New York City. After the city council passed a bill decriminalizing the act, New Yorkers can now legally cross the street at any point, regardless of the traffic signal and in or outside the crosswalk. The bill, adopted as a law last week, aims to address racial disparities in enforcement. According to a Brooklyn council member who sponsored the bill, 90% of jaywalking tickets in 2023, just last year, were issued to Black and Latino residents, as reported by The Guardian. Either way, and this is personal, I got nabbed decades ago crossing Madison Avenue, and trust me, it was not fun. And finally, for 5 years, REBNY has been relentlessly advocating on behalf of brokers and the entire real estate community to prevent harmful legislation like the FAR Act from becoming law. This fight isn't just about one bill, it's about defending the jobs hardworking agents and brokers and preserving the future of New York City's rental market. But they can't do this alone. Now is the time for every agent to join this fight. The FAR Act is gaining momentum, and we need your help to stop it before it's too late. The revised FAR Act will hurt New Yorkers and could limit their ability to learn about rental opportunities. It will also lead to increased rents and will certainly limit housing access, raising rents and jeopardizing the livelihoods of hardworking real estate agents all over this town. This new legislation could be voted on as soon as November 13th. Together, we can protect New York's real estate market, keep rental housing from getting even more expensive, and secure the livelihoods of thousands of agents. Let your voice be heard today and help stop this bill from advancing. Go to the REBNY website today and find out how. And with me today on set is Matt Emmy, and he is the co-founder of OneButton, a technology integration and design firm based in New York and Los Angeles. They have earned 10 Lutron Excellence Awards for its innovative lighting solutions and collaborates with top AD 100 architectures and design studios. Matt is respected as an industry leader in his lighting, audio, and video technology, but when not deep in technology and design, he can be found flying drones as an award-winning aerial choreographer.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at stephen@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back. So we're talking to Matt Emmy today, and interior design, and I was telling Matt before the show, it's something that I've always enjoyed. It's something that I think I could probably do, but of course, after all these years, I would need a whole lot of training, but I like the creative aspect of it. I like what you can do to make a room or a whole apartment look different. But the better news is today we're going to talk about not only my desire to want to be an interior designer, but the fact that Matt and his company and his people marry design and technology together in this new world of ours, 2024, to make homes smarter and much easier and more fun to live in. And we talked a little bit about, darker spaces, for example, lofts downtown in Soho and in Tribeca, where a lot of the rooms are not so bright. A lot of the rooms are built, some of them, facing brick walls. But Matt's going to tell us in a little bit about how he can brighten up just about any room and make them look good. But I want to call you the Renaissance man because when I was doing research on Matt, you started out as a physicist, okay, which is like so interesting to me. And you've done so many other things, which we'll get to. But tell us a little bit about your background, your schooling, where the physicist comes from, and how then you turned that into a career in design.
Yeah, well, it really is all kind of interrelated. And I grew up
sort of.
Depending on how you look at it. I grew up in Salt Lake City, and outside of wonderful skiing and hiking and mountain biking,
Sure.
Socially, there wasn't all that much to do. But there was this really extraordinary hi-fi store called Audition. And I used to go in there and I would hang out with the sales guys and we would listen to literally the best speakers in the world. And at 17, 18, I was listening to vinyl, these Wilson Audio, $250,000 speakers. And it literally blew my mind. I would hear things from behind me to the sides, and just the quality of it was so exceptionally different than anything I'd experienced before. So I kind of became obsessed with understanding what was going on. So I wanted to study acoustics and physics to kind of explain to myself what happened in that space and what I was hearing. So I ended up getting a lab TA position when I was studying physics for an incredible professor who taught a course called The Physics of Hi-Fi. And he was all about demos. And there was demos every day on incredible physics principles and how it would relate to sound and electricity and technology. So I was the lab TA for that program for a number of years. And I feel like today I really effectively do the exact same thing. I'm just still kind of a lab TA. It's just that the technology is what we apply to our home. And I help people that are building homes and guide them through that process of making the right selections. Ultimately, I want to think of myself as the best guide that somebody could bring on so they can make the best possible decisions for an investment that they're going to have for any number of years. So
I was going to ask you if that, your physicist background was what inspired you to specialize in the technology aspect of design. Obviously, it was, and it has shaped your whole, firm's philosophy. Tell us a little bit about how, your clients react to what you bring to the table, whether you're working with them alone or you're working with other interior designers. How do your clients react? Everybody wants a smart home. Everybody wants new technology. Everyone, I would assume, wants better lighting. I mean, I certainly do in my apartment. How do your clients react when they hear about you and what your company can do for them? And then, of course, the end result.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's had kind of varying degrees of experience with technology in a home, be it positive or in many cases very negative, because this industry has kind of been, it was like the early days of PC manufacturing, where it's like you got your motherboard from here and your sound card from here and your power supply from here and your enclosure from here, your operating system from here, and you kind of mashed it all together and hopefully it worked well. But in those early days of PC, you would call Dell and they'd be like, oh, you got to call Microsoft, or this is a problem with your motherboard, you got to call these people. And our industry for a while has kind of been like that, where it's like taking all these disparate things and kind of putting it together in the best way you can. So it's caused a lot of heartache for people. And so we were always looking for a better process, a better way to approach that, where we were minimizing the number of factors that were being utilized and streamlining the processes to create a better ultimate outcome. So people come to us, they have, either expectations or some concerns about systems they've had in the past. But really, people also just want to learn what's new, because there is an enormous amount of new technology that's just come into the scene recently that's very exciting. So we've developed a number of demonstrations that we can either take into the space or people can see it at our show space in Greenpoint to get an understanding of what is the latest in, for instance, lighting. We have tunable and circadian lighting, which is really exciting. We have speakers that can be installed invisibly into your drywall, go behind plaster or wallpaper.
I was going to ask you about that, because that to me is very, very interesting. And I've seen it recently and I thought, well, how does that work? Right?
Yeah.
One would say, okay, it's hidden behind the wall. How does it really work? But before we get to some of that, I want to ask a little bit about how you balance the aesthetic appeal, right, with the functional technology. Like, people think you're just adding lighting, and so you got lighting strung against the wall or the ceiling or whatever. How do you balance the aesthetic of the overall room with furniture, with whatever other placement that either your client is choosing to use or another interior designer is choosing to? How do you balance all of that, making it functional, but making it look good as well? Because when you think about, technology, you think about big pieces of something stuck in a corner, hanging from the ceiling. But I don't think that's how you accomplish your overall final product.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, we want music, not speakers. We want the experience, not the object. And when we moved our company in 2010, we started working with Annabelle Seldorf, and she was very exacting in her design and very precise in what she wanted. And we couldn't perturb the vision that she had for the space. So we very quickly had to make the technology that we were putting into the space either disappear or complement. And so we always kind of look at everything. Do we want to conceal or celebrate an object? So with a speaker, like there's some beautiful speakers that can be a centerpiece of a room. Do we want to take that route and make them complement and add to the design of the space? Or do we want to make them invisible? So we usually like to go on one of those two orthogonal drives. And then the same applies to light fixtures or shades, drapes, any kind of moving technology. So we're always looking for an opportunity to conceal it into the architecture. So we brought on our design team, and we really beefed up our design team to be able to speak and incorporate our designs into the architect or the designer's vision. So that was like the cornerstone of where we started, was being able to speak their language and best incorporate these technologies, be it sound or TVs. Again, we have ways of concealing TVs or making them go away, or we can put a beautiful frame on it and celebrate it. So it's that orthogonal axis.
All right, so I'm intrigued. So you want to make TVs go away, but yet they're still there and they're still functional. How do you do that?
Well,
I mean, that's a dream.
Yeah.
Okay, in my opinion.
So we have one technique that we use in our show space in Greenpoint. We have beautiful wallpaper, and we have a method of mounting the TV so it's only a 1/4 inch off the wall. And it's got tiny bezels, so it's a 1/4 inch bezels and a 1/4 inch off the wall. So it's barely there, but it's still a black rectangle. But I've taken that image from the wallpaper and I put it on the TV, so it literally looks like the TV is in chameleon mode. And people walk into the space and, oh my God, I didn't even know that was a TV there.
I've seen some TVs like that with other paintings or pictures or whatever, but thinking about putting wallpaper on that, how do you do that?
Well, my background also as a photographer helps me there because I have to do a lot of color balancing.
Renaissance man, I did say that before, right? Okay.
To get that image matched perfectly in both the color, the contrast, the quality, the texture. So it's not an easy trick. And then we have to light it like you would light a painting. And this is something none of the TV manufacturers have figured out. You want to light that TV from above as if it were a piece of art. And then that finalizes the illusion of this TV being a painting or a part of the wall itself. And this is where we're playing at the axis of, audio, visual, lighting, and design.
See, I'm kind of stuck on this for a bit, so bear with me. So then when you want to put the television on, what happens to the beautiful artwork or beautiful wallpaper that's fixed there?
Yeah, I mean, the second you press a button, then you get the show that you want to watch.
And the wallpaper disappears.
And then when you turn it off, it'll go back to that wallpaper mode or art mode.
Okay, so he's going to do my house next time I get involved in this kind of stuff. I remember speakers, that were this big, as you indicated, and then the one I have home now is maybe half the size of this card, and it's wireless and it's stuck behind a picture of something, and you don't even know it's there, but yet it's wireless and it works and it's wonderful. So I get how you can make things smaller and more efficient. But talk to me a little bit about, you mentioned it before, by putting the speakers, and I've seen it recently in homes, in some new developments where it's in the wall.
Yeah.
And you don't really even know that there is a speaker behind there. All of a sudden you put your sound system on and it's really literally coming out of the wall. How is that done?
Yeah. So this technology has been around for a little while, but only recently has it become good. And currently, the speakers that we utilize are voiced to the same in-wall speaker you would use, so there's no compromise. So you get this, it's almost like a parlor trick that's just sound, and it almost feels ethereal, just in the space, and you don't know where it's coming from, but it sounds glorious. And we can finally make this kind of concert quality sound.
Is it one wall or is it a couple of walls?
We would use 2 or 4 or sometimes more speakers, just depending on the size of the room. The number of speakers you'd use is the same, whether it's a visible or an invisible speaker. But, just like my professor, I actually brought a demo. Instead of a cone like a regular speaker would have, this uses a flat board, and you can feel it. It's really rigid. It's like very, very stiff.
Cardboard.
And just like a regular speaker, you would have a voice coil. So you run electricity through this coil, and then this piece moves up and down and vibrates the cone. But in this case, it's on the back of this board, and it's vibrating the board. And the board is installed in the drywall, just right up against the drywall. And then you would tape and mud, and then you put 2 millimeters of compound on that material. It can be plaster, it can be drywall, it can be compound, it can be wallpaper. We have it under wallpaper. It doesn't matter if it's drywall compound. It completely goes away and it's completely invisible. And this little transducer vibrates this board, which is decoupled from the wall, and you get sound. So a way of understanding how it works is you've got this little music box here, and you can kind of hear it. Not too loud. Maybe that's getting picked up by the mics. But when we attach it to this board.
Wow. Okay.
It's effective, right? You can try it. It's fun.
It's very effective. That is incredible.
So just an example of how that works.
And so how big is this Again, I'm getting very technical, but how big is that in the wall space?
It's about 14 inches by 20 inches.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, it's designed to go between your drywall studs, and it's only about 2 inches thick. So sometimes we'll actually use invisible speakers, not because, we really want to have an invisible speaker there, but because they're shallower than a traditional in-ceiling or in-wall speaker. So it solves problems for us that way too.
So, before we get to lighting, how difficult is it to, what are the challenges when you're going into a space, and probably because of the size of the room or the size of the apartment, whatever, how challenging does it become to figure out what is the best, sound solution or lighting solution? I mean, you have to look at a room and kind of figure it out, just like a furniture designer has to say, well, this size sofa will fit, this size will not, et cetera. What are the challenges that kind of can back you up and make it a little more difficult to come up with a solution? I suspect that you always have one, but what does it take to get to that level? Because I'm thinking about my apartment, which is not a bad size, or some of the studios that I might sell, those smaller one-bedrooms where you might want to increase or add things, but you really don't have the space to do it.
Yeah. But that's the fun part.
I would assume so.
It's fun because we've developed a process around it. And our process, basically, we call it the product triptych. And in each of our 6 product categories, we have 3 choices that you can make. But to get to that choice, we're balancing 3 different factors. And this is the case whether it's design or anything else. And it's the vision of the architect or the designer, the desires of the client, and then the unique capabilities or qualities of the space itself. So we have to take those 3 things and we balance those out. And we want to get clear on, which one of those is the strongest kind of voice in the room. Sometimes it's the architect, sometimes it's the client, sometimes it's the space itself. If it's a big open lofted space,
sure,
there's certain things you can and can't do versus like a tight, cozy brownstone. So
I would assume that acoustics can sometimes be a problem.
Right.
In larger spaces.
So with the understanding that we're weighing those 3 factors into play, we then look at each product category and we select from a priority of value, aesthetics, or performance. And all of our products fall into one of those 3 categories. And so then we're choosing a product that suits the qualities that we're looking for from those 3 factors, incorporating the space itself, and making the best decision using that kind of product triptych. And we have examples of each of those products that we can show. You can see it at the space. We can bring it to the client, bring it into the space itself. So we're picking one of those 3 solutions generally for the space.
What about lighting? Talk a little bit about lighting before we go to break. When you look at a space, like we said before, some places can be darker, some places can be okay. I see a lot of, when I go into apartments, uneven, what I call uneven lighting. So obviously it's an analysis when you walk in, and based on your experience and what you've done in the past, you look at a room and you say, okay, this needs what, or this needs this.
Yeah.
How do you kind of come up with the right balance in lighting in a room? Because I think that's the most important thing, to balance what you get from outside to what you don't get on the inside.
Yeah. So one of the things that's happening now is lighting is moving into that space where, like all other products, it's becoming smart or automated or intelligent. Mm-hmm. And that intelligence is going into the fixture. And what that's allowing the fixture to do is tune its color temperature. And color temperature is just a fancy way of saying the different quality of light that we experience, that we get either daylight from the sun or like a candle light or an incandescent bulb. Those are just different flavors of white light. One is cool, crisp, energizing. The other is warm, cozy, and inviting. And we now have bulbs that can just slide and produce light at any one of those variables, and it can match the outside sun. So we're now being prescriptive with light, not just in where we want it, but what the quality of it is in terms of the color temperature. So if you go into a space that is in need of, more light into the back of the space, it's got smaller windows, we can use cooler color temperature light to make it feel like the sunlight is just rushing into that space. But then in the evening, we can tune it to warm to make it feel pooled and cozy and attractive and comfortable. So we're now working with lighting designers and architects to help them understand we have a whole new palette that we can work with in terms of the performance of the fixtures. And we're getting incandescent quality light, which we know and love, but with the benefits of LED efficiency and lifespan.
All right, we have so much more with Matt coming back after the break. Quick break. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network. Don't go anywhere. And in the meantime, I'm going to figure out how to work this soundboard. We'll be right back.
The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
Okay, so we before the break, we were talking about lighting. Okay, we've got a lot more to talk about, but we were talking about lighting. So, Matt, in the whole scheme of lighting, right? What controls the use of lighting in the room when you're adding and enhancing the aesthetic in the room? What is used? I see you brought out another thing that you want to demo there. What is that, and how does it control the lighting? You said something about sliding light bulbs before the break.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah, these are just a couple of examples of keypads that we really like to use.
Okay.
Again, each one of them sit kind of at that axis of like celebrate or conceal. So this is something that we would use. It's from France, as we talked about.
Right.
Beautiful metal plates, multiple various metals that we can match different elements of metal into the space with. So this is something where both of them are ultimately going to simplify the control of lighting in your space. And what's happened is we've gone from, a switch on the wall and a light bulb to the ceiling. Lighting designers and architects have come in and they want to add multiple layers of light. So now you go from one light bulb in the ceiling to some downlights, some pendants, maybe a chandelier, some linear, some under cabinet lights, toe kick lights. Well, now what do you have? 6 switches on the wall. You've probably walked into a space. You're like, which does what? Up is down, down is off. And then they're 3-wayed to another switch over there. So everything gets reversed. And people have been into a space and there's 3 or 4 switches on the wall. You may have lived there for your whole life, for 20 years. And you can't tell me which switch does what.
That would be me.
So fundamentally, that's like the first problem we're solving, right? Nobody comes to us and says, I want a lighting control system. But it's like, that's the solution to this usability problem.
Right.
So we're consolidating all 6 or 7 or 5, however many switches you have on the wall. First off, it's big, it's ugly. So we're consolidating that down into a singular keypad where you can have coherency and you would have prescriptive scenes, something for day, something for the evening, and then you can design lighting scenes around the space. So you have 3 perfect scenes for the space and an off. Otherwise, every time you walk into the space, you're the lighting designer. You're like, I want this light here and I want that light there. But if we want to create scenes utilizing the light in their best way possible, we need to be able to bring them back to those preset levels. You can do that with either of these.
Talk a little bit about the products that you use in creating the audio, in creating the lighting. What are some of the products that you use or integrate into your design within an apartment or in a home that most clients are fine with or understand, or actually they may not even understand? What are the names of the products that you use, and how often do you integrate them in all of your solutions?
Yeah, well, we really seek the best in each product category. So for lights and shades, that's Lutron. They're really the product and category leader.
That's a fairly familiar name, yeah.
And so we utilize, Lutron on pretty much every project. We're usually utilizing their homework system because it allows us to incorporate keypads like this, allows us to incorporate their shades or third-party materials, drapery tracks. We can even incorporate thermostat and temperature controls into the Lutron system. So it's very powerful, very flexible. It can control and dim just about every light. And then they also have the best tunable lighting system by Ketra. That's that circadian lighting system that basically mimics the sun light from outside. So Lutron is really the key, like the cornerstone of what we're using for lights and shades. For audio, we really like Sonos. They've had some challenges with their app lately, but we don't even necessarily need to use their app, because the way we like to use it is if you use Spotify, you can just go right from the Spotify app to any speaker in your house. So if you know how to make, sound go to your earphones, you can do the same. It's that easy to get sound every room in your house. So you don't even need to touch the app. There's lots of different ways to get, music to different places in your space. For displays, we're big fans of OLED technology. So Sony or LG really make the best OLED displays.
Explain OLED.
So there's been a transformation in how we use the display technology. Normally it was a display layer and then a backlight. So with an LCD TV, you're shining light through a colored membrane that's changing all the time. But that barn door can only close so well. And so you get a lot of black light bleed. And what it means is that traditional LCD TVs don't have great black level or great contrast. In an OLED, every pixel is its own illuminating quality. So there's, millions of these little self-illuminating pixels. And when they want to be black, they can just turn off. So you get a perfect picture with OLED technology. And that's one of those things that allows us to kind of emulate the wall because we are able to really dial in the brightness and the black point just so specifically and so perfectly. So we're a fan of that technology because, again, we see it as the best.
So I get so many questions. So what types of clients come to you seeking, these technology solutions in their home? People who have heard of you before, people who have friends who have used you, or other, folks like you who include what I like to just simply call technology. What type of client comes to you? And by the way, do they come to you directly, or do they come to you through a regular interior designer, meaning not what you do, but furniture and painting and all that good stuff? How do you get your clients? Where do they come from?
Yeah, the majority of our clients come from our design and architecture partners. So,
Okay.
They're building a house with a client and they get to the point where it's like, okay, it's time to talk to OneButton about what type of technology you would want to deploy in your home. And, we run them through this process, the product triptych, and we talk about the 3 different products in each category, be it shades or lights or speakers or TV or theater sound. And we just prescribe what we would want through the space. We create a floor plan with little dots that show where all the technology goes. And then they can say, oh, no, we don't want speakers in that room, or, oh, let's add shades over here. Oh, we want 2 layers of shades in the bedroom, or a shade and a drape. So we just have a very simple conversation, and we have, visuals and objects to help facilitate that conversation. And by the end of that conversation, we've basically created the design for the home. And then if they want to bring us on board, we would work with the architect or designer throughout the process. That build process takes, a year, 6 months to 8 years. We've had some projects take that long. And we're then designing the technology along the way into the space again. So things like shades and drapery tracks are concealed into the architecture. The speakers become part of the space itself, and the light switches.
What is the most important when a client comes to you, or designer, or both, and they want to integrate your solutions into their home? What's more important to them? Is it lighting? Is it audio? Is it drapery functionality? What is the number one leader? And then everything else may or may not follow. But what is the number one thing that most people will come to you and say, hey, you know what? It's really all about lighting for me, or hey, it's really all about the audio for me. And again, you may end up integrating a lot of things, but what's that driver for the most part? I mean, I'm sure everybody differs, but what's that leading driver in your opinion?
Simplicity. It's not a product category. Yeah, it's simplicity. We can't make our systems simple enough, and we constantly think about how to refine each of our systems down into its simplest format. But what's been interesting too is sometimes people come to us and maybe they're a little bit more interested in audio, but once we start talking to them about lighting, show them what circadian lighting is, or show them the keypads, they become really fascinated with that. So sometimes their priorities will shift just based on what we're showing them, and then they'll become very excited about the design of the lighting, or the quality of the light, or the functionality of the keypads. I wouldn't say there's one overwhelming category. It's pretty balanced. People usually are interested in the best deployment of all 3 categories.
It's interesting that you say simplicity, and it's funny because it leads me to my next question. After you're in there, after you do your thing, whether it's a couple of weeks, couple of months, whatever, depending on the size of the installations, being simple is very important. when you leave, is everything you install, does it remain user-friendly? See, I think of myself because I would be a klutz and I'd be like, oh, well, when I worked at IBM for 13 years and you think I know technology better than the next person? No, it's been a long time since I've done that. But how user-friendly is it that when you walk out the door and you leave your stuff behind, that is your phone ringing like, hey, I'm stuck, or hey, I don't understand, or hey, this happened, or they just kind of seamlessly go through and live their life with better and upgraded technology and in a simple way? Is it easy when you leave? Because it's the same with anything, right? You hire somebody, they do it for you, they leave, and now you have a problem. Perceived problem because you don't really pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, support of these systems is critical, and we're really there to help train and help people understand the benefits of the technology and help understand the best way to utilize it. We'll do a training at the completion of the project, and then we always come back like 3 weeks later because people will start to understand how to use it and to learn it, and how we can then give them some more like deeper tips and tricks and ways that they can use the system, or just changing the functionality of how the lights are. They said, oh, I thought when we were going to use the space, we'd want this light switch to do that. Now that we've been here for a couple of weeks, we want to change it. We want it to do that. And a lot of those changes we can actually make remotely and immediately, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, it's a gamut. It's still technology. We do everything we can to make it as simple as possible. And we've really distilled a lot of what we do down into making things as simple as possible. But there's always challenges. I mean, getting passwords right into all your different streaming services. We sit there and handhold everybody through that, but there's, always those little glitches that we want to work through. But for the most part, we're able to remotely reboot and resolve problems that people can call a 24/7 support line. If they do have issues, that's going to solve 90% of our problems. So, I came into this industry when we were kind of cobbling together like a remote control to control multiple different systems on your TV. And those were always really problematic and very problem prone. But again, we've solved that using this like zero line architecture where the system basically just doesn't have that failure rate anymore. And, I used to get the phone calls at 9 o'clock at night. And, oh, my TV's not turning on. I got to watch this thing. And we don't get that anymore, really. So we've really been able to create a degree of reliability in all of our systems that is, really kind of reducing the amount of support that we have. So now it's more like, oh, hey, we want to upgrade this, or we want to, make this work better. So we're supporting systems that way.
We talked off camera before the show started this morning about the East End of Long Island, the Hamptons. So my question is, do you do more houses and homes all over, or more apartments, or is it in New York City, or is it kind of balanced? Where is more of your work being done these days?
The majority of our work is in the city. We're seeing a big shift towards Brooklyn, more projects in Brooklyn these days, which is fun. And then we have a handful of projects in the Hamptons, or even as far as Montauk.
Now, I would assume that when you're working in a home, because they're much bigger than in an apartment in New York City, they take a lot longer. What is the average time it takes to get an installation done? The planning process, the interviewing of the client, the actual installation and implementation, and then completion. What does a timeline look like?
The majority of our projects are based on a build of a home. And so it's really bound to the construction cycle. So that can be anywhere from like 6 months to a year and a half to 3 or more years if it's, a 7-story townhome on the Upper East Side where there's like very intricate details going into sophisticated millworks and spiral staircases with chandeliers. Sometimes we've seen those projects, especially through COVID, take 4 or 5 years.
Very interesting. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back much more with Matt right after this. Don't go away. This is Talking New York Real Estate on the More Network.
This podcast is supported by the More Network, powered by Brown Harris Stevens. Real estate touches every aspect of our lives, from design and architecture to investing and the economy. Now there's a way to get all your real estate information in one place. The More Network. With more than 20 podcast and webcast series, the Mastery of Real Estate Network is powered by Brown Harris Stevens, one of the country's most distinguished brokerages. Discover advice from notable entrepreneurs, compelling topics, and access to top global real estate experts. Subscribe to their YouTube and Apple podcast channels by visiting GetMoreNetwork.com.
Okay, we're back. So technology comes and goes. As I indicated before or during the break, I worked at IBM for 13 years. And it was so funny because every time I would sell a computer or a PC or whatever it was to a client, and I worked in big corporations, so we would sell hundreds and hundreds at a time, 150 PCs being delivered, whatever. But every time something would arrive on site, the next day IBM would come out with an update or an announcement or a new product, and my clients would say, "But Vince, we just took in a delivery of 150 PCs or printers, and now your company announces a new or improved product." So my question to you is, when it comes to the technology solutions you put into homes and apartments in New York City, how quickly do they become outdated, and what is your plan? When they do you go back and reinstall? Do you get back and update new models, new features, new functions? How does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Because we all know technology changes. Look at our iPhones, right?
It does, yeah. And iPhones is kind of the fastest, or phones are kind of the fastest
Correct.
evolving in that space. But there's actually quite a lot of longevity in home technology. I mean, think about speakers. They have evolved in that we have invisible speakers, but 10-year-old speaker still sounds great. And we have projects that we started in Manhattan in 2010 when we started here, and they're still using all the same technology that we installed 14 years ago now. The technology has gotten to a point where it's kind of powerful enough that it can be continually upgraded to receive new features. So the sound systems have been updated, and they are almost in product parity with a new system that I would install today. So they're very close in their capacity and capability because that software has just been upgraded on that hardware platform that, like I say, there's 14 years old. They're still chugging along, doing their thing. The switches that we just showed you, those are designed to last for tens of years, 30, 40 years. In-ceiling speakers, they should last 20 or 30 years. The back-end infrastructure that controls the lights, that'll last, again, decades. So there are things that have quicker cycle times, like displays, for instance. A 7 or a 10-year-old TV is probably pretty thick, kind of maybe a little bit off the wall. So, hey, let's maybe talk about upgrading that. So some of those original homes that we did 10 or 14 years ago, I've gone back in, we've updated the TVs. And then the big thing we've done is we've gotten rid of all the cable boxes. Okay, this is a huge unlock because you've got the app on your Apple TV and you use your Apple TV remote and you have a cable box-like experience. So if you still want that cable box look and feel, you don't lose that. But in single sourcing the TV, we get rid of the remote control, that big clunky universal seal club remote control. We don't need to use that anymore. We don't need to use switches and balance and all this back-end infrastructure that we had to basically use to support switching between your DVD player and your Apple TV and your cable box. And that's what would cause the problems. That would be the I have picture but no sound, or I have sound but no picture. So we've eliminated all those problems by eliminating the cable box, and your cable bill goes down by $100 a month. And those cable boxes are a big offender of power consumption. So whether they're on or off, they're chewing 30, 40 watts of power night and day. So you got 10 cable boxes in your house, that's 400 or 500 watts of constant power draw from your home. So not very.
I wouldn't even think, and again, the layman here when it comes to stuff like that, but I wouldn't even think that you would be able to integrate a cable box into your technology solution. I mean, the box goes away. You need the Apple TV to do that, or is there other ways you can do that?
Yeah, so
because I have it too, but I can't even imagine how that would work.
Yeah, so Time Warner and Spectrum now and Fios both have apps on the Apple TV. It's not the easiest thing to get them to set it up for you. We have tricks that we have to play with them to get it set up right. But then you just go to that app and it's a cable box. So you get rid of all those cable boxes.
That's extraordinary.
So we go in, we have a service called Cable Box Delete, and we go in and, it'll be a big rack of equipment, and we just take most of it out. And then we just leave you with this much stuff. And it's here's the rest of your closet back. You're welcome. And then everything's streamlined and simpler because it's all local.
Correct. Okay. So again, seamless, or it seems like it is. That's interesting. You have to tell me about that because I have Apple TV and I have a cable box.
Oh, I would happily help you get rid of your cable box. It gives me great joy.
And I just had to replace it because I have two in my house, and on the same day, I came back from a long weekend. I came home and I went to put the television on. It wouldn't work, and I thought, did I pay my bill this month? I don't, what's going on here? Both boxes blew up at the same time. How that happened, I don't even know. Well, they were 5 years old, but I had to go to Spectrum and get two new boxes. But
great experience, I'm sure.
Not. I mean, but if I could replace that with my Apple TV, well, that's
so one of the things we do with clients, we'll go in and we kind of can remove a lot of old technology because things are kind of condensing.
Right.
So, that's one of the benefits. We're creating new systems with more streamlined
I was going to ask you about, client, when you go on site with clients, there's got to be a lot of surprise elements, in a visit because I, for example, if you came in to look at my television, you came in to look at my lighting or my audio, whatever, and you said to me, hey, Vince, you want to get rid of that cable box? They'd be like, what do you mean? I need my cable TV, right? I would have no idea what you were talking about until, you would explain it. So how often are clients surprised by what you guys have to offer or what you can do for them to further streamline, the efficiency in their homes? I mean, I would be probably floored if you came into my house and suggested whatever.
Often.
Okay. There's an answer. Often. What sustainability issues does OneButton incorporate in terms of both materials and energy-efficient technologies?
Right. Well, one of the things we talked about earlier is LED bulbs and the energy efficiency and the longevity that they provide. Also, intelligent dimming can really help extend the lifespan of bulbs. But we can think about lighting and how we deploy lighting very differently from an energy standpoint. So in some cases, we're not turning lights off. We're just dimming them down into kind of like night, like a nightlight mode. Mm-hmm. And that can be very energy efficient. It can be gentler on the bulb because you're not power cycling it, turning it on and off. But also just by dimming your lights from 100 to 85%, you're reducing the power consumption by about half. So with these things in mind, we can create, and we have been creating, more energy effective and efficient systems when it comes to lighting. Again, the example I talked about, removing all the cable boxes, replacing them with more energy efficient products. So like Apple TV only consumes 3 to 5 watts versus the cable box, which is 30 to 60. So let's, get rid of those less efficient systems. Sonos amps, they're using very highly efficient digital amplifiers. So they're only consuming 7 or so watts during nominal use versus like big audio amplifiers, which can consume hundreds of watts. Our systems are using less and less products because they're becoming more capable and powerful and smaller. So there's less e-waste and less waste. And again, there is a lot of longevity in these systems. I mean, anything we install today in your home should last you 20, 30 years. With software updates, we can really extend the life of that hardware. So we're not, we're investing in good stuff. We're not buying poor stuff that's going to obsolete itself more quickly. So again, that's where we think intelligent choices and good choices around products can pay dividends in the long run because, you're updating it and you get 2 to 3 times as much life out of the space, and then you're not throwing things away. And then we also have electronics recycling programs so we can help with people take their old stuff. We have recycling processes that we do.
So you work in Los Angeles also from time to time. How are the client requirements different from LA to New York, or are they? I mean, are they basically the same, or do they have more or specialized or different requirements out in LA just based on the environment that people living out there, or are they basically the same?
Yeah, they're slightly different. I mean, ultimately, the core systems that we do are the same in both places. But I think that they tend to be a little bit more aggressive in the deployment of technology and a little bit more excited about more cutting edge technology, where in New York, people are really keyed in on how can they remove the stress of, home systems. How can we make it simpler, easier to use, more reliable? And I think that's just because there's a lot more going on in a big city that you have to be mindful of. And so they want to remove the things, the obligations of the home technology.
I would think that some of the personality types, especially if you're talking to the Hollywood type out in Los Angeles, they would have very specific requirements and could probably be a little more demanding than New Yorkers, although, you know, New Yorkers...
It's tough to top some of the New Yorkers in terms of demanding. But yeah, we have very interesting requirements. Like we've done a concert quality sound system in a gym for one of our Hollywood clients.
Sure.
Because that's a core part of their process. They spend a lot of time in there. And so we're installing, concert level speakers in this
Back
space.
here in New York City, so you work in new developments too, I'm assuming, and some of the older post-war buildings, pre-war buildings. Do you have a preference? Is one easier than the other? And how early, for example, in a new development where you can't really get into these apartments until the buyer closes.
Yeah.
But how early in the whole purchase process can you get in there and get stuff at least identified and then implemented?
Yeah, I mean, usually during the construction process, the earlier we can be brought on, the better, because the designs that we help people choose are going to have a ripple effect into what type of infrastructure needs to get built. So for the bidding process, we can really drastically reduce the amount of copper being used in these circadian lighting systems because the architecture is completely different. So instead of lots of home runs back to a big panel, that technology is distributed into the light fixture. So we only have one cable going back to a breaker. So it's way less copper. So the electrician needs to bid the job differently. Sure. So we need to kind of help all the trades get on board with what they need to do. So the sooner we can be part of the conversation, the better.
Collaboration has got to be key.
Yeah. And look, there's nothing in New York that's not challenging. Whether it's new construction and you're dealing with an elevator at 432 Park that you have to wait up to an hour and a half to come down from, or building requirements with $10 million insurance requirements. Like, are you kidding me? It just spans the gamut. Like, what challenges have we not seen? I don't know what are greater. They're all great.
Well, and co-op boards and condo boards and the whole 9 yards. But I would assume that at the start of someone's major renovation, if it's an older apartment or even a new one, that the sooner or earlier that you can get in there, obviously. I mean, when I think about, the audio integration into the wall board, I mean, you want to do that, when things are raw and when you can get in there without making an additional mess. All right, I called you a Renaissance man at the top of the show. So then I learned that you were a photographer also, physicist, technology designer to the stars. Talk to me about your love and interest in flying drones. I mean, where does all this come from? And what do you do with that?
Goodness, it's fun how it's kind of woven into this personal passion of mine that has also paid dividends in terms of what we do here at OneButton, because I'm able to fly my drones around some of our beautiful properties that we've shot and give that drone footage to the client, and they're delighted to see their
drones.
homes.
This is why I'm laughing. I love them.
I think it was, I got into photography very early on.
I was going to say, do you do it more for photography? Because I've had properties of mine here in Manhattan use drones.
Yeah. Mostly cinematography because I like the video angle of it. And as a kid who played a lot of video games and then took a lot of photos, the second I got a drone, I'm like, oh, this is just the marriage of video games and a camera. And it kind of just clicked for me. So I've been really fortunate to be able to fly drones at an event in Nevada called Burning Man, where I'm one of the primary drone pilots for the event.
I did read that. Mm-hmm.
So I shoot a lot of the
that must be difficult, though, because Burning Man is sort of spread out, right?
It's the size of Manhattan from about 23rd on down. You're trying to cover everything that happens there with all 70, 80,000 participants. And there's, incredible sculptures and artworks and art cars and stages of performance. And it's like drinking from a fire hose, trying to capture everything that's there. But I work with some of the creators of some of the larger performance stages and art cars. So like this year we had a 36-piece classical orchestra play a hybrid electronic set from a DJ named Mitagami. That set is on YouTube under the Mayan Warrior label. So check it out. I mean, it's groundbreaking stuff. Like, this has never been done before in the world. And here we are in the middle of the desert, surrounded by nothing with 15,000 people in front of the stage of mobile sound that just kind of got brought in there. So, there's just a sense of awe and wonder that exists in that space that's unparalleled, that you can't find anywhere else in the world.
So can someone hire you for your drone capabilities? I mean, is that a separate business? Or
it is. I do a lot of work for like the Edge. I've shot a lot of productions and events at the Edge, everything from the world's tallest pickleball match to an Olympic breakdancer breakdancing on the Edge to the Daybreaker crew did a big dance party coming out of COVID on the Edge platform. So I'll fly my drone from there with permission from the building. So I do a lot of architectural work in the city when I'm not doing OneButton.
I will ask you offline because it's going to get very technical and probably very involved, but I still wonder how those little things, or not so little sometimes, just take off and do their thing, and how you guide them up in the air. But I'm still trying to figure out how airplanes fly. So, okay, that's where, I come from. But at the end of the day, what out of everything you do in a day, in a week, you're a family man, you've got a daughter, I think you said, 2.
Yeah.
Where do you find the time to come up with all of what you do? And what's the most favorite, I think, of what you do in a day, a week, a year? Do you have a favorite?
Again, it all kind of feeds into itself. So I got into this because I loved music and I loved hearing this audio technology, and then it translated into, we're going to do multi-channel and we're going to do home theater. And now we got to blank out the room. So we have to have drapes and we got to control the lighting. So, okay, let's do lighting control and all this stuff. And as I progressed through the world, and now that I have kids and a family, the most important thing to me is lighting, because
I kind of knew you were going to say that.
Maybe you don't listen to music or turn your theater on every day.
Because that's my favorite thing.
But you experience light every single day. Mm-hmm. And I use these circadian lighting elements to help wake my family up in the morning. The house kind of slowly opens up shades to reveal
what his
lights.
House must look like?
Well, it's small, and to use
it doesn't matter the size, but the utilization of technology.
Yeah, we have to use technology to utilize it effectively. And so, having a completely darkened room to sleep in is so important to me for my sleep cycles. And as I've gotten older, focusing on the health benefits of technology and how to use technology in a mindful and connected and spiritual even way. And then in the evening, our lights dim, overhead lights go off, it becomes more pooled, that incident angle, just like the sun drops, we want the angle of light in our home to also drop and go from bright and broad and cool to cool and warm and cozy. So we do this to suggest to the kids, it's time to get ready for bed. It's time to have a bath. Mm-hmm. And so, it's not about time. I'm thinking about this stuff every day just because I want my kids to go to bed. It's like, how do we do that? Well, hey, I've got some solutions here. Let me try to deploy that. So, my interests have kind of followed my life course. And, here I am using mechanized shades to help wake my family up in the morning, and using circadian light to help get us to the most restful sleep at night. And so, this is how we're thinking about and approaching technology. And this is where we have the best results, is with clients that are not just, oh, hey, I want these things, but they want to have a healthy, conscientious engagement with their technology and with their home, and they want their home to work in the best way possible for them and their families.
100%. And lighting is my favorite. And one cute story about lighting before we go. I grew up in a smaller city than New York City, Yonkers, New York, not too far up the road here. And our indication that it was time to get off the streets, because in those days you played on the streets, right? Stickball, baseball, whatever, run around, ride bikes. Once the street lights went on, that was our indication we need to go upstairs in the house and go to bed. And I'd say, but no, we're not done yet. And my parents would be out there. The lights are on. Get back in the house. Day is over. It's time to go to bed. Mm-hmm. Anyway, fascinating. We will come right back with my closing thoughts for the week. Don't go anywhere.
Hi, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. Listening to Vince Rocco, you know the right partner makes all the difference. At Roadway, we deliver an experience your clients will love. For specialized services and white glove care, choose Roadway. Want to learn more? Email me at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
Okay, everybody, we are back with my closing thoughts for this week. Autumn in New York City is a season filled with warm hues and vibrant festivities. As the trees in Central Park turn rich shades of gold and orange and red, the city buzzes with excellent excitement for Halloween and the upcoming holiday season. Pumpkins line stoops in front of classic brownstones, and storefronts come alive with creative Halloween displays. By late October, costumed New Yorkers take to the streets for the famous Village Halloween Parade, a celebration for the city's flair, for the creativity and the theatrics, and this year was not disappointing. Soon after, Thanksgiving traditions kick off, leading to an arrival of holiday lights and decorations on every avenue. The air fills with anticipation as Hollywood markets, ice rinks, and seasonal festivities pop up across the city, transforming it into a winter wonderland. In New York, autumn is a beautiful blend of nature's beauty and the excitement of the approaching holidays, making it one of the most enchanting times to experience the city's unique blend of elegance and excitement. And honestly, this truly is my favorite season. And that's our broadcast for today. Thanks to my guest, Matt, for being here on set with me. You can follow me on Facebook, on Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, or TikTok at Vince Rocco, or my website, thinkvince.com. Henry David Thoreau said, "I would rather sit on a pumpkin and have it all to myself than be crowded on a velvet cushion." And from all of us here at Talking New York Real Estate and the More Network, to all of you all around the world, thank you for spending a part of your day with us. I am so grateful, and I will see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.